I'm really happy that we are doing this talk now tonight because I think already a year ago we've met, right? And you were telling me about your new project Relay and that you would love to make a studio visit or a book presentation. But COVID took, like the lasting of COVID was longer than all of us expected, right? So now 1 year later, we are still in the situation that we are doing it online, but which also has the positive effect that it brings Innsbruck and Amsterdam closer to each other and that you are sitting in your studio.
Yeah, so it actually took a very nice turn because originally I think we were not planning to show such an extended body of work, right?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Yeah.
I also have to. This is Margret Wibmer, exactly, and my name is Petra Poelzl. I'm the managing director and artistic director of Neue Galerie Innsbruck and Kunstpavillon, which is part of the Tyrolean Artists Association. In the following, I guess I will briefly introduce Margret Wibmer, and together we will then have a closer look at your artistic work, and we will mainly focus on your participatory performances and performative aspects in your work, and we will be starting from the absence of the tea master and move towards your most recent work, Relay. And then we will open the room for Q&A. In case there are any questions throughout the talk, you can use the chat room here, and also people on Facebook. You can also use the commenting version, and Severin is in the other room. He will check and will forward these questions to us. But there is also the possibility to join the talk at the Q&A section in the end. And as a side note, we are recording this talk. Yeah, exactly. And it will later be part of our little video collection on our Vimeo account of the Tyrolean Artists Association. Well, but now let me first introduce Margret Wibmer to you. For this, I just want to briefly give a sum up of your great biography, because you also, like, always when I read that, she was born in Lienz, Austria, spent a large part of the 1980s in New York. And then I'm always feeling like, oh, that should have been me. No. But yeah, and you're a member of the Tyrolean Artists Association since 2004. And you moved to Amsterdam in 1990, and there you are also currently living and working. Your artistic practice, as we are also going to learn throughout the talk, shifts between performances, sculptures, photographic work, and video installation, where quite often you're merging all these different media together into one work, which makes it quite complex, but also really rich to watch and understand. And there is probably a lot to talk about, and I'm really curious about what you're going to tell us about all the different works we chose beforehand. You have exhibited and performed internationally in venues such as Palais de Tokyo in Paris, and at RMIT at Design Hub Melbourne, at Oude Kerk in Amsterdam, at the Athena Foundation in Düsseldorf, as well as the Ishikawa Nishida Kitaro Museum of Philosophy in Japan. And in 2006, you presented the work The Holding at Kunstpavillon Innsbruck, which maybe some of the local viewers on Zoom or Facebook might remember. And then about your artistic work, I found this lovely little quote on your homepage that I briefly would like to read out, because I also think it's also, I mean, it's 3 sentences, but it's so rich and it really defines your work. And just maybe as a startup, and then maybe in the end, we're going to look at it again or something, but I just thought it's really beautifully written. I don't know who actually wrote it.
Well, I did, but I tell you, yeah, I did, but it took me ages. You don't even know how many times I changed it.
Okay, but it's beautiful. Let me read it. In her artistic practice, Margret is using ambiguity and the principle of chance as a methodology to deconstruct internalized processes, norms, and values deeply embedded within our societies. She creates transient realities that explore new strategies for connecting us with the world and with others. I think this is really beautiful. Strategies for connecting us with the world and with others. This becomes particularly apparent in her participatory performances, in which she applies choreographic elements, sound, and variable props to engage the public as actors and explores the relations between bodies, objects, and spaces. So, well, as briefly already said, the participatory performances and the performative aspects in your work are also going to be like kind of the red line or the guideline throughout this talk. And we're going to start with the absence of the tea master, which is already a great example for what I just said, that you're blending different medias into each other. So now I give the word to you, but maybe we watch the video first.
Yeah, thank you so much for your beautiful introduction. Yeah, it's really, and thank you also for inviting me. It's really a pleasure to do this together with you, and to also, I mean, we didn't know each other for, I mean, we are quite new to each other. Yes. And it's really a beautiful process to, you know, dive into my work together and explore different aspects. Yeah, so I'm gonna screen share Absence of the Tea Master, and we're just gonna look at it. It's gonna take about 4 minutes, and I'm not gonna comment in between. So I will explain later what it is that we saw. But the title already tells quite a lot, Absence of the Tea Master. Okay, it took.
So amazing. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to show the whole video. Actually, this work has only been shown once in one of my solo exhibitions at the gallery in Amsterdam. So it's you know, it's a great opportunity to share it with more people online and also to talk about it.
It's a work from 2013, right?
Yeah.
And there was quite an intense, quite an intense research project.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Happening with going hand in hand with that project.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually the project started, well, it kind of started in 2010. That's when I was invited for an exhibition in Kanazawa by my friend and curator and artist Akane Nakamori. And I spent 3 weeks in Kanazawa. I produced all the works there. So these were photographic works and installation, and also inside the installation was a performance with Kiyomi Yamashita, the one that you see as the tea master, the dancer that you see as the tea master in absence of the tea master. So when I was working there I know Akane for a very long time. We knew each other in New York. So that's also, how these relations grow. They grow over a long time usually. But like when I was in Kanazawa for the first time, we discovered a shared interest in rituals, because Akane has actually seen documentation of the holding that was, performed at the Kunstpavilion.
Kunstpavilion, yeah.
At Kunstpavilion, and of course, some listeners might actually be familiar with the work and would know that, for instance, the garments that I developed for that performance were also a little bit. There was a resemblance to. It was between a kimono and a ninja costume. So. And Akane, she has a big interest in the Japanese tea ceremony. So we started to talk about a collaboration, and that's really when it started. So I would say like in around 2011, we started to develop, the whole research project started. So the essence, the focus was really on the question of, is it possible to change ancient traditions? And why would you do that, right? So, I don't know if the listeners are familiar with the Japanese tea ceremony, but just like very briefly, it is a very old tradition that was used, for instance, by samurai to before they would go into fights. I don't know if fight is the right word. If Japanese listen to me later on, they'll say, "Wow, what does this Austrian say about the Japanese tea ceremony?" But like, so it's not just drinking tea, It's a very specific. It has very specific rules, and it is a very, very specific space that is meant to create great concentration and calm. So actually it was, you could say it was used also by politicians or by samurai before they make really important decisions. And normally it's like a wooden house, and the size is very precise. It's 4.5 tatamis. And you enter the tea room through a very low door. You kind of have to almost, especially when you're a little bit taller, like Western bodies, you have to crawl kind of through that entrance, And samurai they had to leave their weapons and their swords and stuff outside, right? So we were talking about approaching this project from both an Eastern and a Western perspective, and Akane was in the beginning was quite focused on looking for a beautiful traditional house where we could do this performance. And then I sent her a video of James Lee Byers' The World Question Center, in which I don't know if the listeners are familiar with it. You can find it on the web, just Googling. But it's a work that has like incredibly fascinated me, and he invited artists and intellectuals, a very specific group, and he would ask the following question: could you present us a question that you feel is pertinent with regard to the evolution of your own knowledge? So the guests, for instance, were John Cage, Joseph Beuys, Marshall McLuhan, and some gave quite cryptic answers. And then James Lee Byers would say, the question is the answer. So extremely interesting project. So when I showed this to Akane, it brought to mind this Nishida Kitaro Museum of Philosophy, and she told me about this amazing space that you saw in the video, which is right in the center of the museum, and it's normally always empty because it represents the philosophical princess of emptiness. Yeah, that Nishida Kitaro was exploring. Yeah, and I was not familiar with Nishida Kitaro, so for me it was a very, very great discovery. He's one of the most important Japanese philosophers, and as some of you, or mostly everybody, probably has noticed, the building is designed by Tadao Ando. So it's just to work in a building like that was really amazing. So what we did, of course, in the tea ceremony master is the central figure, and normally it's always a man. There's very few women who are allowed to take this role in Japan. So we replaced the tea ceremony master with a dancer, with Kiyomi Yamashita. And then, of course, we have a round space. And then the tea that you saw in the transparent glass bowl, that was also made by a glass artist, a Kanazawa-based glass artist. And you see the tea dancing in the bowl. That's also normally not, normally there's a ceramic, very beautiful raku ceramic bowls that are used in the tea ceremony. And then, of course, the soundscape, that was a composition by Minoba Norihito, who I've also worked together on several occasions. And he even built speakers specifically for that space. So we tried to create kind of an outer worldly atmosphere. Yeah. And
the garments were made by you also?
Yeah, so thank you for the garments. The garments were developed by me, and I made them in Japan together with students and tutors from Kanazawa Bunka Fashion College. Which was also a really, really great experience, because I chose a fabric that is very difficult to sew. It's a very thin polyester material. And they showed me techniques of cutting it that I've never seen. So it was a fantastic collaboration also. And yeah, the design of the garment, it's a little bit a mix of a kimono and kind of monk's attire. So also there I was trying to create something that is a cross of East and West. But also with the garments, I'm always also looking at the building. So the color of the building is a specific gray. And so the greenish color of the garments, you know, it also creates other kind of association. It also has something clinical. So when you look into, you know, the performance from above, you can also have other kind of associations. And of course, that's what I'm looking at. So we are not looking at, you know, when I create a work like that, I'm not looking at exactly creating something that would be recognizable, but something that has many, many layers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And because you mentioned Nishida Kitaro before, right? And he was also the philosopher who coined the term of acting intuition, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's also something that is part of all your works, I guess, but it somehow influences many of your works. How much was in this particular piece, how much was there like choreographed? How did you like build the structure for that? I would really be interested in that because it's so precise, but I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, in this work, the structure, so I built the structure, of course, it was a process, you know, together with Akane and also Minova, and I mean the composer and the dancer. So we had, you know, many meetings, many Skype meetings to kind of develop this work. And actually, it was quite precise. Also, the participants are experts in different fields. The woman that you saw drinking the tea is actually a curator. She's the curator from the gallery where I had the exhibition. And then there was also Fuyuko Kobori, part of the participants. And she is one of the very few female tea ceremony masters in Japan. She's 17th generation tea ceremony master. Okay, wow. And she's from a very famous family. It's the Enshui Kobori family in Tokyo. So there's also a beautiful story how I met her, but maybe we are taking too much time for this first work. But so this was because it was like a research project, and we wanted to do something very, very specific, you know. So I also had to learn a lot about the tea ceremony and about Nishida Kitaro and so on. So I just want to mention, and without getting into it further, that we also did in the same year, we did 2 iterations in Europe. One was in Düsseldorf and one in Amsterdam. So we developed it further for the European context, and that's another story.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, then maybe we go to the next work, which I want to go back to a sentence that I read in the beginning of our conversation. Margret creates transient realities that explore new strategies for connecting us with the world and with others. Yeah, and what we had now in the absence of the tea masters was like you also depicted a kind of community that was connected in a kind of ritual, and they were kind of a secret community. We don't know, but immediately your head tells you stories, who they could be, what are they doing. And in the next performance we wanted to talk about is Time Out, where you work with an anonymous audience, which also creates a community kind of, but you also, it's interesting because through textile prop, you kind of create, it opens up own world for the person who wears this garment. Like it brings you closer to you kind of, but also when you're an outstanding person, there are these people standing in the room who are again a community. So this is like different layers of how people get together, how they are looked at. I think it's quite interesting also. And this piece was presented at Palais de Tokyo, at the RMIT Design Hub in Melbourne, as well as at the Atelier, also premiered in 2015. So maybe we are also going to watch the short video here, or?
Yeah, let's watch the video first and then I explain. So I must say that the video is very dark. I don't know if the listeners, if their screen is very dark, maybe you can make it lighter to see it better. And I'm just gonna let it roll for like 3 minutes and then I explain a little bit about it. Yeah,
thank you.
Okay. Okay.
What an amazing location to do work in.
Yeah. So this was quite. I mean, at first it was quite a confrontation when I was told. Actually, I did a rehearsal in 2014. That was like first a kind of not a rehearsal, a first tryout. It was during a festival, and the festival had a lot of locations, and they came to my studio and said, "Well, you can just use AutoCAD and do whatever you want." And in the end, for the festival, there was not enough budget, so it became a group show. And so I did a first tryout, and then what you just saw was happening in 2015, and it was during museum night. So yeah, it was quite a big call because this is like 3,000 square meters. And you know, I learned a lot in Japan in terms of how to do the choreography, actually, because I had to develop a kind of like several stations, you know, to lead. So I had made 40 of those black coats, and we had nearly 3,000 visitors between 7 o'clock in the evening and 2 o'clock in the morning. So I had to find a way to kind of lead the visitors into something and to kind of seduce them to take part. So I worked with a team of 30 assistants. And so there was one of the first stop, let's say, where you take off your coat and you leave your bag, you leave all your belongings basically behind. Then you go through a golden gate, then you sit down, you get leg warmers. So this is all done with a lot of care to kind of prepare you for something which, well, you saw in the video, it's quite scary and confronting. Because what you saw in the video, for people who might not realize that, those are tombstones. So in Ouderkerk, there is 22,000 people buried in total, about 2,400 tombstones. And the tombstones are, the most famous one, I guess, is Saskia van Uilenbos, the wife of Rembrandt. And then there's some very rich and famous people buried, and also others. And also I saw on the website is mentioned now that there's also slave traders buried there, and that the Ouderkerk is currently trying to figure out how to deal with that colonial history, you know. Mm-hmm. So actually, that what's interesting, like that information was not available, or yeah, it was not that publicly available in 2015. Mm-hmm. So maybe not to make it too long, because it's all of the projects are such, you know, there's so much to talk about mm-hmm. each of the works. But so basically, what I did there, I invite people to participate in something where you, like you said before, they become part of a group, right? Part of the community, because they all wear the same garment, right? Mm-hmm. But the garment, like the hood you saw, is very, very big. And so when you wear that coat, you feel very, very comfortable, but you are also by yourself. So when you lie down on the woolen mats, these woolen mats were actually sponsored from Filgrata Natur. Actually, Austrians might know the company. Yeah, so it's woolen mats, because it's very cold, you know, to lie down on the tombstones. And this was mm-hmm. in November, so I had to mm-hmm. figure out something, right? Mm-hmm. So and then the music that you heard was an interpretation of John Cage's "As Low as Possible." So mm-hmm. the organist had a specific, like, heavyweight weights made to put on the tastatur, on the keyboard, on the keys.
Was it played live, or was it?
It was played live.
Yeah, oh my God, I didn't know that. Oh wow.
Yeah, it was very special, and we didn't announce it, because otherwise, if it's announced when he plays, then people only come at a certain time. And it was not, of course, just about the organ player, but, you know, to create this kind of also, you know, like uncontrolled space. So mm-hmm. Again, working, I mean, different than in absence of the team master. In this case, there was a lot what I call chance encounters. So to leave a lot of space for the public to explore their own interiors, I would say. And so the purpose of this work is to really to have the interiors of us and also like archetypal experiences that we all share, like fear and a need for shelter, to overlap that with the history of the place.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how long did people stay in there? Like, did people stay like for hours, or was that the
some
point?
yeah some did yeah.
Okay.
And so that was, for us, it was a little bit a hard decision because we only had 40 codes and we had to work very, very quickly, and we wanted as many people to go. I mean, I consider also the people that are watching as participants, but I was hoping that a lot of people can get the chance to be both, to look at, you know, what they see, and, you know, and to do it.
But as you just said before, like you work with encounters by chance, you said, I think, right? Encounters by chance. And also in this text that you wrote, that I read in the beginning, you were also writing you're working with the methodology of the principle of chance. Like you propose something to the audience, and then they can use their own imagination or their own responsibility, how they are dealing with it, which probably also leads me to the next work that you've done in a black box, right? Which is also super interesting, because coming from the museum, you did the video performance in, and then taking the Oude Kerk, which is a museum old church, and now going into the black box. Like it's also a complete different energy in these surroundings. Maybe we are going to speak about that one next. Would that be? Have a look at it.
Yeah, so the project is called Salon d'Amour, and it was I was invited to develop a project for a festival about love. So it had to be something about love, and I got a theater space, and I could do whatever I want. So that's how I developed the project. So maybe we're going to show just 2 minutes of a documentation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which festival was it and where was it? I forgot.
It was in Eindhoven, and the performance took place. It took place in Natlab. Yeah.
My dear Susie, by which 2 lives are one, this sweet and strange adoption, wherein we can but look and are not yet admitted, how it can fill the heart, how it will take us one day and make us all its own, and we shall not run away from it, but lie still and be happy.
All right. So let me explain what was going on there. So of course, working in the black box, it's a neutral space, right? Where you can create your own world and your own story. So I collected love letters from famous artists and writers, and even one politician was François Mitterrand. His collection of love letters just came out just when I did the project. And others were like Frida Kahlo, Anais Nin, John Cage, Franz Kafka, and others. So I collected those love letters. I mean, they are published, of course, and I didn't have to go through the archives. That would have been hard. So I went to Paris so I made these masks, the mask that you see. I went to Paris to secondhand stores, and I bought ballroom gowns, like very beautiful, shimmering ballroom gowns. And I cut them up and I made the masks from this. Something. So you had, so there was in the theater, there was no public that was watching. So in this theater, it was possible to push back the grandstand for the public. So we had a huge black floor, almost like, dance floor available, which was amazing. And then I made a setup of each time 2 chairs for a listener and a reader. Mm-hmm. So the listener would wear the mask and the reader would choose to read one of the poems. So the voices of the readers were embedded in the soundscape. The soundscape was developed by Robert Poss, a musician that I've been working together for many times. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting. We had to create a soundscape that is not too like guiding the emotions. The soundscape had to be kind of not neutral, but something that envelopes you, mm-hmm. that you feel safe. And again here, I mean, there are, of course, through the chairs, for instance, I create some structure, but the participating public, they had to kind of develop like their own feeling for reading all together, because they were all reading at the same time. And sometimes the light was going out and one spotlight was coming on, and then one reader with a microphone was reading one poem, and then that spotlight went out again and the light went on with the rest of the people, and they continued. So it was like a composition, but the composition is not so much made by me, but it's made by the people.
Chance.
Yeah.
I mean, when you said like this, that the music was enveloping the people and the whole scenario, mm-hmm. you also create with the mask, you're also like bringing the inner self again, I know that from authentic movement in dance, where you shut your eyes and then you just follow wherever your body brings you. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that is something you do with these masks also, and then mm-hmm. listening to that poem, creating your own, like, I don't know, like activating your own associations to the words and the sounds you hear. I mean, it really makes you dive into your own image world full of imaginations. I love it.
Because, the thing is, those love letters employ a language that we are not used to anymore these days. It's really mm-hmm. like, somebody reads it, this love letter, it's like, oh my God, this is quite kind of like, can I handle this? It's almost, you almost feel embarrassed, or like you want to blush, So it's good to have the mask, and the mm-hmm. mask is also because when you receive a love letter, you are usually not next to that person, but you are far apart for, whatever reason, or sometimes it's a secret lover. Or it's somebody who is in another country.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
And how long was there like people were allowed to stay in there for half an hour, or was there a length of the whole?
There was a length,
piece?
yeah.
Mhm.
So the length of this piece was really let's see. No, the soundscape was going in a loop, so it was a repetition. They were in there for a little bit more than an hour. So we did like in one evening, we did 2 rounds, and we did it on 4 days.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had actually when we filmed, it was the first part was a rehearsal, so you saw just a few people, and then the last few parts of a minute you saw there were more people together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, what I learned so far from your work, what we learned from your work was like, I mean, you are really building up different collaborations and also kind of communities in your work, like in the production process, because in the absence of the DMARC, you were working with a choreographer or a dancer, a curator, and you built, yeah, and then there is also this work material encounters where you also work again with a dancer and a choreographer, right? So I was wondering, not a choreographer,
No.
she's a dancer, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But I was wondering about if you could also like talk a little bit about this, like making a piece for or with this anonymous audience and making a piece or a performance for the camera with a dancer. Kind of these different collaborations you are building up and how they are, yeah, just what interests you also in that.
Yeah, so basically all of the works, the purpose of all of these works is to generate new knowledge. So you know, in a work like Absence of the Tea Master, it was on a specific topic, and it was first of all for us artists, you know, who were involved in the production of this, to figure it out and then to bring it from Japan to Europe and potentially develop it also further. And then in Time Out, for instance, the knowledge production is by the people, you know. So in a work like that, and even in a work like Salon d'Amour, it's very, very difficult to document it through photograph and film, because the work is not what you see, the work is what happens with the participants. That's the real work. So after a few, you know, producing a few performances like that, I realized again that I was getting very curious, like how could I translate that like intrinsic knowledge and also materiality to digital space? Like how can we feel that? I think actually during COVID, you know, we are all so used to talk to each other through this, right? That it feels, it almost feels like, it feels like normal, like, you know, like, or whatever is normal, but like you're there. I show a little part of material encounter in a moment, and I also want to mention that this work is going to be shown soon in a group exhibition at Schloss Bruck in Lienz, for those who have the possibility to go there. But before...
Which year is the work from? Material
2018. Yeah, and just before I show it, I would like to say a little bit something about the collaboration with the dancer and what I actually did there. So my interest was to, you know, like in dance, or different types of dance, there is also a language that is developed, you know, through different dance schools or dance traditions. And I was interested in, is it possible to break that language? Yeah, so actually the garment that you see in a moment, I developed it while we were working on the choreography. So I worked with Miri Lee, who is a Korean dancer who lives in Amsterdam for a very long time. And it was a really, really great collaboration with her, because she was very, very focused on the collaboration, you know. It was not like I'm a dancer and I do my thing and I'm a professional, she's very, very professional. And, you know, so it was, again, it was like a step-by-step process. Each time changing the garment, each time changing the choreography. And also in this case, she was working together with her partner who is a musician. And so in this case, the soundscape and the choreography were developed together. And Miri and her partner, they know each other, of course, obviously very well. So that was a beautiful, a beautiful symbiosis. So I showed the work, for a little bit. My computer is a little bit slow. Let's see.
It's all fine.
Let's stop it there.
I mean, you know, I also used to work. I also work a lot in theater. I used to work a lot in theater, and this, like watching this, I really would like to stand next to you and see how you are working on site. It's maybe also because of COVID. I've not been to the theater now for a year now. My whole, like, my body is really, I want to be there, and it gives me good.
Yeah, I must say I totally love working in the black box. So this was actually also recorded at NatLab. We could just do it there on a day that the space was available. We didn't have to pay rent. It was kind of sponsored. And also we work with the light technician. So this piece it's not meant for a live performance. It's really meant for video, obviously, because I'm trying to explore what, can you feel the fabric? Can you feel the material? Can you feel the body? Can you feel the tension, and also the softness, that she creates.
How many days did you use to shoot the video?
On one day.
Ah, okay, wow.
Yeah. But of course, we had many rehearsals.
Okay.
So like the garment, I developed it little by little, because at first my idea was to use, I thought that it would be interesting to use like a half translucent fabric that you see the body through. And then I quickly saw that, no, there have to be more layers. And then also, like, as she started moving, if the fabric was too slippery or too heavy, it would fall off her back. So I had to create all these layers of different types of transparency and different type of texture. And also the length. In the beginning it was shorter, but then as she was moving up, I saw that it had to be longer. And in the end, it was not so easy for her to manage, because it was like, of course, she didn't see herself what she was doing, so she kind of got entangled in all this fabric, and she had to find a way out of it again. But what I find really beautiful is that you have all these associations, as she developed, like this, different, how can I say, characters, I would say, right? There's all these different associations that come to mind. Yeah,
it's in between. It's like super animalistic, it looks like a bird or something, or you get like really into into the forest to see a bird, and you go on the street. Like it really takes me, at least, on a whole tour of it really makes my imagination wander around. I wanted to ask, you said that the piece is going to be shown in here in this area soon, or?
Yeah, in Lienz.
In Lienz,
yeah,
okay. And how is it going to be presented? That was what
it will be presented on a large LCD screen. Which is not the most ideal way of presenting it. I mean, the better way of presenting it would be a large projection on the wall, but you don't have the possibility always. So in this case, it's in a group show, and from what I understand, the space is not. It's just that's the only possibility to show.
But like now, you were just talking about that garment and how you developed it, like in accordance to the body of the dancer who is called Mary Lee, right? You are also working with a garment in your latest work, Relay, that is kind of connected to that garment. I don't know if you see like that Material Encounters was like a forerunner, I don't know how to say, of Relay. I mean, then in Relay you work again, like it's completely different. You don't work with an anonymous audience, you don't work with professional dancers, you work with close friends from your New York surrounding. So maybe as the last point, we are going to talk about and hear a little bit more and learn a little bit more about your latest work, Relay, that it is from 2020, right?
Yeah, so there was actually another work before Material Encounter. It's called Infinite Play, and that is a work that I developed in 2017. And it is for that work that I developed the textile prop garment is a difficult word, but I also use it sometimes because we're so used to that word when something is on the body. But that's where I originally developed the textile prop that you see in Relay. And that also is the one that informed actually Material Encounters. So there is a work that, that was there before, and that the video, there was also a video and a series of photographs. The video was actually shown at Ballet Tokyo also in 2017 as part of Paris Fashion Week in a small exhibition curated by Vittoria Matarese about people who work on the edge of fashion and other disciplines. And then it was shown at the Galleria Bolilok, actually in Burger. And the photographs, that whole series has been quite successful. Actually, it's in a number of important public collections. One of them is Artothek des Bundes in Vienna, and it's exhibited actually since it was bought at the Ballhausplatz, the Federal Chancellery, the Austrian Federal Chancellery at the Ballhausplatz.
Yeah.
So so that was the first iteration. Actually.
I just want to say that we got a question from Kritika, which I will read out loud after we talked about Relay. I think it's a great question. Thanks for it.
So now we're gonna share the first part of Relay, right? We're gonna dive into that. Okay.
Yes, let's dive into it.
Great. So I'm going to show just 45 seconds at the very beginning, and then I explain. Okay, I stop it there and actually I go back a little bit. So here we see 6 participants. In total there were 10. And you can see, I believe, a little bit that this, what I call textile prop, here on the right, you can see it quite well. It's actually a very large piece of fabric, or let's say 3.5 pieces of fabric with 12 holes and strings on the side. It's an open structure. And all of these people here, you can already see that there's a lot of variation. They are all using the same piece. Should we go to the second part?
But what are you giving them? Like, they come to the space and they're your friends, and then you say, just take the garment and move? Or are you like, is there a story, or how are you?
So this relay, the filming was done in Brooklyn, in the building where I used to have my studio. And the decision to work with friends was not an immediate decision. I went through different possibilities. One was to work with former fashion models, because I was interested, like, how they would move. Again, I was interested, in the movement. And then it was an idea to work with artists from New York. And then suddenly I realized that it was not about, it was about something different, this work, it's more about showing who the people are. So, when we wear clothing, we become somebody, we become a character, or we become a label, or, or we belong to a specific group of people. And in this work, I really want to show who the people are. So this is a multi-generational group, and also a multicultural group of friends. And the instructions that I gave, it was the garment, or the textile prop is made by hand. So that influences how people deal with it, because when the whole thing is made by hand, and I show them the holes, they are hemmed by hand, it's a lot of work. Then when they realize that there's so much time went into making it, it has a different value than if it was something that is just quickly made in the factory or whatever, right? And then I told them it's not about decorating the body, but it's about how the body relates you know, to this textile prop, and just, you know, improvise, play with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then well, we did like 5 minutes, and then after 5 or maybe 10 minutes sometimes, because it's improvisation, and the fabric is quite heavy. It's like molino. It's like it's a calico, actually calico it's called. It's like a raw cotton that is quite heavy. So when you it's quite a workout actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe unless you have another question now, maybe we should show the second part where we can see.
Yeah, maybe, but I have some more questions.
Okay.
But maybe
All
you
right.
can show the video part first, and then.
No, whatever you prefer.
Okay, no, I mean, I also would like to know about, but maybe it's easier for the audience to understand also my questions, because I already saw the work. Would be also like, so did they listen to the music that is now part of the video work? What was first, or how did the music inspire the movement, or how was the video recordings of the movement of your friends in the textile prop inspire the music, or which way was it around?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was something. And then there is also a book about relay, so I was like, I would be interested in the process, but maybe it makes more sense to see more of the video first and then dive into that process.
Yeah, okay, let's look at the second part.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. This is 3 minutes now. is, you know. So, yeah, you want me to explain a little bit more about I don't hear you.
Yeah, I'm muted, sorry. How did the piece come together, the video work, and then also like maybe the beautiful publication?
Yeah.
I would really be interested in it. Also, if there is a dramaturgy about the video, when did the dramaturgy come in, you know, like?
Yeah, so, well, one thing that is really important in this work is the stark black and white. So it was not filmed in black and white, it was filmed in color. So this is something that happened later. But I worked against a black background where I filmed it, and I asked every participant to wear black. So this, you know, masking the appearing and disappearing, that was a very important aspect that I had from the very beginning. And then, of course, I had like about 10 hours of film material. So I had a lot of material to choose from. And then it was a very, very, very long process to go through all the material and to choose some sequences that, what I was trying to do is choose sequences that really showed that each of the performers does something very, very different. So I wanted to show that they all are their own character. So what you see is not, you know, it's not it's a performance of the self, you could say, right? It's a performance of how they feel, how they felt maybe that day, or how they feel in general. It's, you know, it shows, you know, again, intrinsic knowledges, right? Yeah, so that's why actually one of the performers said to me, yeah, I know I have this friend in I don't know, in Paris, a very famous makeup artist, and he would have been great. And I said to her, no, it's not about that. You know, it's you are the people, you are the representatives of humanity, of humankind. You know, it shows who we are as humans. I mean, if humans would disappear, then, you know, it would be a kind of a language, actually, in the text that is in the interview of Magdalena Kröner, that is in the book. She talks about hieroglyphs. Yeah, it's
right, like Japanese characters, and
exactly
stuff, right?
So it's like, you know, it's like a language, and everybody has a different language, yet all we do have a lot of things that overlap, no matter which culture we come from. And yeah. Oh yeah, and then the music, you wanted to know exactly. So that's a really important question. So also I have to explain that for this work, I work together with a video editor. He's Florian Krepczyk, is actually a young Austrian artist who, unfortunately, at least at the moment, he's not really doing so much of his own work, or he's not really showing it, but he is, I think he's very, very talented. He already worked on the first video with me, the Infinite Play video. And for this video, it was so challenging for him that I had to really like pull him into it a few times. He said, I can't do it, this is a little bit too much for me. Because, so what we had to do, so again, I worked with Robert Voss, the composer that I mentioned before. Robert and I, we know each other for a very long time. So I can say to him, okay, this is the kind of atmosphere I'm looking for. And then he just sends me a lot of sounds. But the tricky thing is that, of course, the sound influences the movement. Like when you do the editing and you already have the sound, it's going to influence the editing, right? And the other way around, when you have the editing, it influences the kind of choices that you would make. So there was, there was a lot of back and forth. It was a very big job to do that. And then we developed the book actually at the same time. So that was really, really beautiful process because at the same time I was working with a fantastic graphic designer, Isabelle Viguier. Yeah, this is also, it's not like I give the images and the graphic designer does something. It was also a whole process in terms of like thinking about the combination on the pages, like to create pages that are also feel like a theatrical space, you know, that don't feel like I don't know, a fashion magazine or something like that.
As you said before, like there's one picture in the book that is in color, right?
Yeah, a few, 2 or 3, I think. Yeah. Well, you know, the difficulty was that basically to make a whole book with images that are basically quite similar, you know. I mean, they are all improvising with the same textile prop. So that was actually quite a big challenge to create a book that has enough variation that you are inspired to look through the whole book. And it's not like, well, I don't know, yeah, okay, I saw it, right? So yeah, so that was also a very, very long process, and it was beautiful to do it at the same time while we were still working on the video, because yeah, that also the two things did influence each other a little bit. And then of course in the book, maybe should I show a few pages of the book?
Yes, that would be lovely.
Yeah?
I think.
Let's see. Okay, so this is the cover. Yeah, I think you can show this also then live. It's better to see like the quality of the. So it was very important, for instance, that the relay, you know, that is shiny, and it's how do you call it? It's an imprint. Yeah, it's
imprint.
Yeah, it's an imprint. So it has texture to it. And then the outside of the book, I mean, these were decisions that we made at the last moment. There is no plastic that would protect the cover. We didn't want that because we were really looking for tactility, you know, that when you hold it in your hand, it's about the paper, it's about how it feels. Also the weight was really important, and also that it's flexible. And then there are these inlays. This is on the pink pages. It's a very beautiful poem by Mariana Maruyama, who has also been involved in quite a few of my projects. She's an artist and fantastic writer. And the poem really takes you into the work. It's yeah, I cannot describe it. You just have to read it.
Yes.
Yeah. And then there's, you know, Isabelle, she introduced also certain graphic elements, like here the pink circle, which, you know, gives it more depth. It makes it playful, and like working with Isabelle, it was such a pleasure because she, you know, we have a similar sensibility, so we understand each other on many levels. So it's not like you have very complicated discussions, but it was just really a joy to work on it with her. Yeah, so yeah, here you see in the middle, you see the stitching. So again, you know, we try to bring back the quality of the fabric, or the handmade, the hand sewing. Yeah, this is also a beautiful page. And also the printing process, you know, I wanted to have a very dark black on a paper that is not shiny, which is quite difficult to do, but with a lot of details in the photographs, in the images. So that was also like quite a trajectory until we found the right printer that was affordable, because you can find fantastic printers, but they are so incredibly expensive that you just can't do it. So this was printed at Holzhausen in Vienna, just outside of Vienna. And that was also a really beautiful collaboration. Yeah, here you see the interview that Magdalena Kröner did with me, which was also a really fantastic journey, and it contextualizes the work. So this is not only about Relay, but it's also about you know, other works and a methodology of working that applies to several of my works. And Magdalena, we also know each other for quite a long time. So I mean, it will be very difficult to do this kind of thing with somebody who you just meet.
Yeah,
basically.
sure.
Yeah. And then the last one is I show a short video of the collector's edition. So I also made a collector's edition, which is the book and the box that was handmade in Vienna. And then it's put into a frame so that it can also become an object that you can put on the wall. And it is presented here by my daughter, who is involved in many of my works, and she's also a performer in Relay and in Infinite Play. Yeah. Yeah, so it includes also an original print on Barita paper. Barita paper has a very nice structure. Actually, here in the video you don't see it so well, but it's not like just a shiny print or so. It's a very deep black, and yeah.
How high is the edition, or how would you say it? Like, how many pieces
12.
are there in the edition? 12.
Yeah, 12. Yeah.
But it's really like having the book here. I mean, it's really joy to dive into it. Just when you don't have it in front of you, when you speak about the paper and the tactility and the flexibility, and yeah, it's really a little with the poem in it, the whole book becomes a kind of poem. And again, it takes you on a kind of journey through different pictures and worlds with that garment and the different people and their expressions and movements. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I mean, that's
true.
the thing. Yeah, I should not forget that it was published by a Verlag für moderne Kunst. So that's also beautiful that it was possible to find a publisher. Actually, in the beginning, we had a more experimental approach, and at first, Verlag für moderne Kunst were not going to work with me because it was too experimental, simply because it's too complicated for them to find a public then, right? But when we decided to make it a book, they were very happy to take it on. So I mean, that's also kind of interesting, the relation between value, like what something costs and what something really is, right? Because did I lose you? Oh no.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm still here.
Okay.
Yes. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, so the book is, it's the price is made based on the size and the pages and things like that, right? So but what you just said, it's really something, it's an art object, it's not just a book. Yeah.
But maybe a last question I would be interested in before I'm going to read out the question by Pritika, I hope I pronounced the name right. How is the work exhibited, Relay? Like, are you also showing the garment, or is it the video, or?
So it's the video, the book, the collector's edition, and photographs. So I have like, they're not very large. They're about maybe, let's see, 48 by 36 centimeters, something like that. And black and white prints, a limited edition. And the video, so the first presentation of the video was a projection into a dome, which was very, very beautiful. And then the second presentation was on a projection onto a wall, and the performers are larger than you. And it was a very interesting experience because it feels like they are coming into your space. So when you project it onto a white wall, it's very different from when you see it on screen, because when you see it on screen, you have the black background. But when you project it onto a wall, the black disappears. I don't exactly know why, but that's what happens. And then the performers, it really feels like they're in the space with you. Yeah.
But that's also a feeling I had with the absence of the tea master. Like, I also see that first work we talked about, like on a big projection that maybe even stands in the room, and you are like standing in front of it, and it really gets you. But this also, I mean, now we've talked about so many aspects of your work, and there is this interesting question that I want to read now. I have a question. The interior knowledge that was generated for the participants, like in Salon d'Amour or Time Out, was it recorded in some way through writing or interview or something like that after the event?
In the case of Time Out, I have a few testimonials, and I talked to some people who participated, and yeah, these are actually very moving stories. For instance, a woman whose husband's funeral was taking place at the Oude Kerk, and she told me that during the funeral she could not. She was so upset and emotional, she could not really process the loss of her husband. So when I did the performance, I think it was 2 years later, she decided to lie down exactly on the spot where she was standing. And she was lying there for a long time. Actually, I was getting quite worried because she was not that young and it was quite cold. And she was just lying there. And at some point I went over, she said, no, I'm fine. She had to process it. Yeah. And then there was a student from Taiwan who told me she felt very lonely, and then she decided to go to museum night, to go to several museums. And then when she came into the Oude Kerk, she was afraid because she didn't know what to expect, and she saw these people lying on the ground, and she thought actually they were dead bodies. And then she decided to participate anyhow, and she told me that when she was lying down, she started crying, and then she imagined that that her ancestors were buried in the grave where she was lying, and she was kind of making contact with her ancestors, and then she felt better. So yeah, and some people who know the history of Oude Kerk very well, they would lie down on a particular grave and tell me that they would kind of take the journey that this man was making. He was going to China, and then an American who was going to China, and then he came to Amsterdam, and so in their mind they were they were like taking this journey. Yeah,
but like it's also completely different probably, because this work was also shown at Ballet de Tokyo, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's like something completely different.
It was very very different. And so at Ballet Tokyo, of course, it was in the context of a very big festival. And Ballet Tokyo is also, it's huge. It's I don't even know how many, 10,000 square meters. I have no idea. And so there we gave the instructions. We invited people to stand still, not lie down. It would not have even been possible to stand still for as long as they want, in the middle of all the things that were going on. And there was two very interesting things at Ballet Tokyo. First of all, the people who came in and saw these hooded figures thought they were actors, but then when they would go down in the mezzanine, they see the wardrobe there and understand that they can participate. So that was a very interesting aspect. And then the people at Ballet Tokyo, the ones that participated, they were interpreting the work in their own way. So that was really interesting. It was not as because there was not this kind of historic layer, or at Oudekerk you kind of get guided also through what the place tells you, but at
the history of
Tokyo it was wild. Yeah.
Okay, does anybody want to ask questions on Zoom or Facebook? Because now it's already 9:35 and we wanted to talk until 9:30, so we're already 5 minutes over the planned time. But it was, I mean, for me, it's super lovely to speak to you. Thank you, Margret.
Yeah, thank you.
Does anybody want to ask a question? Severin? Not on Zoom? On Facebook also nobody has a question.
No questions.
No.
Maybe we said too much.
I don't know. But we're so clear.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to add something? Maybe what are you currently working on, or what is your next?
So
I mean, are you also like thinking about doing another theater production, or would that be something that you're thinking about? And
at the moment, I mean, these kind of performances where I use garments as a kind of a medium that that people also exchange in the COVID or post-COVID time. That's very difficult. So that's not happening. So I have to look at those kind of performances. I have to kind of rewrite them if I wanted to work on the same theme. I'm working on sculptures at the moment, so I was the sculptures are more minimal than the sculptures that I made before, and it's a lot about materiality, also about physical presence. And we're gonna see where it's gonna go, but like with Relay, I mean, that's definitely a work that I'm gonna develop further. I cannot say at this moment what shape it's gonna take.
But you're going to work with it again.
Yeah.
And what we see there in the back, in the room you're sitting at, is that the sculptures you're working on?
Yeah, this is work in progress. So these are the sculptures. Actually, I'm working with fabric that I used in Singapore during a performance. It's a very interesting material. It's almost 100% tencel, which is it's kind of well, most people will probably know tencel because it's very popular now. It's a kind of viscose. It's the tencel name is like a brand name, and it's from Lenzing, you know, the Austrian company Lenzing. No. And yeah, well, if you probably notice, like if you pay attention and you look at the labels, you probably see that it's in quite a lot of like fabric products. It's a certain percentage tencel, and well, I don't, yeah, the fabric is made from the pulp from eucalyptus trees. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And I think you just mentioned Singapore before. Maybe as the last thing you also told me about that you're currently teaching a class in Singapore, right?
Yeah. That's a really beautiful. So this happened because I was developing a performance in Singapore last year in January together with students, and that's how I met. So these students were dance, fashion, and fine art students, and so that's how I met them. And then in like halfway 2020 they contacted me again, and so lately I was doing a project with bachelor students. It was really fun to do. Yeah, because
online.
It was online, and it worked because I work very closely with the lecturers that are on place. So they and I also work with the curator. So it wouldn't be possible to work only with the students, because in fine arts, obviously, you know, I mean, you have to have some sense of the material and so on. But so I'm with the assessments also, and the technical solutions are very advanced, I must say, in Singapore. So the tech team is really fantastic, and so they go around the works with a camera wagon, and they all have microphones to speak. And so they are really doing their best to give me a very like close impression of the work. And it's fantastic.
Okay, then, so when are you coming back to Innsbruck?
I'll be in Innsbruck in August for sure, and I don't know if I will come there earlier.
Okay.
Yeah,
but keep me posted and we go for a coffee.
I will. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Because if there are no more questions, then I would say
that's it. We call it an evening.
I think it was. For me, it was super inspiring to learn more about your work and to dive into it. Like as I told you before, like last night, I was still really stuck with the video works, and it's beautiful stuff you're doing. So I'm looking really forward to see what you're coming up with next, and also to see the next exhibition you're doing in Lienz, or the work in the exhibition.
Yeah, there's also something coming up in Cologne, but I tell you about that another time.
Okay, good.
Thank you so much.
Okay, good.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Petra, for taking all the time to dive into my work.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah, great.
Sleep tight.
Okay. Ciao, ciao.
It's always the weird moment.
The sun is shining in Amsterdam. It's amazing now. I wish you would be here. We could have a drink on the terrace.
Exactly. That's always the thing with the online talks. When then you have to normally after talk you go and eat a drink and meet and mingle, and then it's like you close the computer and go home, and it's always feels like something is missing. So it's also a little bit awkward to close.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk, but I guess we've reached time.
Thank
See you soon.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.